Hi there, welcome to Island Fly Tarot. I'm going to do a tarot card reading for Scorpio energy, and we're going to do this 10 card spread. And uh, we're going to read it from a couple different perspectives because people have free will, and some people are more high vibrational in their Scorpio energy. Some people are just a little more worldly focused, and some people are quite more shadowy. And shadowy Scorpio can be, you just don't really align with your more loving, hopeful, believing nature. You can be intimidating, controlling, superficial, shallow, narcissistic. Some people, it's just that they don't deal with their emotions very well and they kind of keep that buried beneath the surface. And so then you can get in relationships with people who just aren't very emotionally connected in with themselves. And then they can find it really confusing when we're emotionally complex human beings and we can have a lot of conflicting, kind of contradictory feelings towards people and things in our life. And for some people, it just gets them so confused, they just want to get away from whatever causes them that emotional confusion instead of trying to work through it. High vibe Scorpio is people who want to explore the mysteries of life. They want to kind of understand their emotional complexity. They want to do the highs and the lows and realize that if I want the highs, not everything's going to work out the way I want, and I'm going to have to go through some lows. If I want to do love and be in relationships where I'm in that energy, not everything works out, and I'm probably going to be sad, and can I work through it to kind of emotionally detach and let that go when it does seem, we're not on the same page? Maybe some people don't feel they would be able to pick themselves back up, so maybe that's why they don't even want to do love. But anyway, we all tap into Scorpio energy also because it is kind of I view it as the emotional water sign that we kind of tap into when we're in the midst of something, because it's fixed sign energy. And then it can, we don't like things that we've invested in to work out the way we want, so it can be hard to get out of them. So listen to your intuition about where you might be in the story. Listen to your intuition about other people in your life and how they might harness their Scorpio energy. Because again, just like maybe our Cancer and our Libra and our Capricorn or whatever, it's kind of like trying to find people that are kind of on the same page as us in a lot of these different zodiac sign traits and characteristics: our truth, our heart, our worldly nature, our creative inspired nature. And we're trying to find people who seem to kind of just be on the same page of having learned some lessons in life like we have, and that we kind of work together cooperatively. And if you're someone who wants to be in deep, meaningful relationships, you need to be in relationships with people who want to be in deep, meaningful relationships. And the truth sets us free when we quit living in denial or illusion. Okay. So I view this card as the overarching reason for the reading. And with it not showing itself, Scorpio energy itself that we all tap into, if we were to kind of look at Scorpio energy as its own energy in the world, I would view this that high vibe Scorpio rejects harnessing this energy in a shadowy way, and it harnesses it in a more high vibrational way. But we live in a world of duality. We have our high vibe nature, we have our shadowy nature, and we, in our more shadowy nature, and other people in the world could hide that they could be tempted to harness this energy in a more shadowy way. What is it? The Temperance card. Sagittarius energy about Sagittarius is about learning lessons in life and higher education. And sometimes in some of the cards, this one cup is pouring like fire, our fiery nature, all these things of the world that we want to go make our life about, and then our more creative, inspired, hopeful, believing nature, and trying to get balanced emotionally about the fact that there are these things of the world that I would like to make my life about or be involved in, but trying to balance, because shadowy fire sign energy can be just being more about yourself and your ego and your immature nature and yourself, and then trying to balance that out with the fact that we want to be in relationships with people and it's not just about us and people don't like us being bossy or controlling or egotistical or immature. And so we try to balance that out. Some people are out of balance where they are kind of indulging poor behavior in themselves or others, and they could be trying to hide from people that they are maybe even getting in friendships or relationships in order to feel more balance within themselves. We either do this work within ourselves to try, and we can, it's always nice to have supportive, encouraging people in your life to provide that type of environment for you to do that work to get more balance within yourself. But some people never do that inner work. And it's just like, no, they look to getting in friendships or relationships with people like other people look to drugs or booze to make them feel better. No, I'm sure if I just get in another relationship or go get a different job, I'm sure it'll all work out. But they never deal with the truth of what it is that makes them feel out of balance anyway. And some high vibe people probably have done this inner work and they're kind of ready to move forward differently. They've taken that time to do that inner work to get balance within themselves. And part of the reason I say that is because we kind of start out with the Tower card and the King of Cups and the Sun. The Tower can be, I've done that work to see the truth, and then we come out with the Knight of Pentacles, which is, I have done that inner work, and I have seen the truth. And I have freed myself from some of those things that used to manipulate me, and I'm offering love to myself, to believe in myself, and have a new beginning. And if there were just things I was dealing with in myself that could have made me not sure who and what I wanted to invest my time, energy, and effort into, some high vibe people have seen the truth. If that's to keep moving forward with the people that are appreciating, like, and investing in the people in their life who they think are loving and authentic and warm and insightful, who are also moving forward in life, not just trying to balance out their emotions. With the Judgment card, they're holding themselves and other people accountable. And other people who do that within themselves want to be in relationships with other people who do that. And sometimes we have to leave behind some people who could harness this energy in a more shadowy way. They don't ever do that inner work to deal with why am I fearful? Why am I insecure? Why am I bossy? Why am I controlling? Why am I egotistical? Why am I more materialistically driven? Why do those things kind of consume me and kind of keep me tipped out of balance? Why am I not offering love to my own lack mentality, is what the Five of Pentacles can talk about, to kind of love and believe in myself? I have free will. Shadowy King of Cups can be I'm wearing a false mask, and Shadowy Sun can be I'm operating more from my ego. I can do that. I can stay unbalanced. I can, be in the shadowy energy, or I could invest time and energy to work through why I have lack mentality. Why don't I love and believe in myself? Or why am I so consumed with my ego and my image? But then we would have to hold ourselves accountable, and that's why some people don't do it. We have the free will to deal with the truth, or we can want to stay in denial of the truth. And we can reject higher learning and education. I don't want to deal with the truth. I want to just keep moving forward the way I'm doing it. And, say you work with someone and they're kind of bossy or controlling. It's like, okay, are you ever going to see that this isn't really going to work out in your best interest? Because eventually some other people might move on. And then over here we have the Five of Cups, where people can be sad, but we're not going to keep moving forward and investing in people who aren't willing to hold themselves accountable, who aren't willing to maybe put in the work and effort if we add the 1 to the 5, we get the 6, and the 6 can talk about being balanced kind of between our more about ourselves and working together with other people cooperatively. We could do equal give and take with them. And some people are like, well, no, I just think you should kind of indulge me. I might have, they could harness this energy in a shadowy way. I think I have certain skills, talents, looks, appeal, social clout, money, education. I think you should just let me keep moving forward with you. That's what I've decided. And the other people are like, but we've kind of hung out with you long enough. And we kind of think we're not on the same page. And the Four of Wands can talk about coming together with others in joy and celebration. But then moving forward, we have the Three of Swords. It's supposed to be balanced. It's supposed to be just and fair. Balance between the mind and the heart. Say again, if it was a job, does someone kind of present themselves friendly or cordial, and someone does seem to have some of the qualifications and all that to do the job, but I don't know, they do things that shadowy Five of Wands can be maybe more where people don't really do equal give and take and work cooperatively together, and it could be a little more stubborn, a little more fixed in their ways, because this is Taurus energy, and Taurus is also fixed sign energy. And then the Five of Cups is Scorpio energy. Again, we can know people in our family, in our friend group, in our workplaces. And again, the Five of Cups kind of talks about, I wanted us to work together cooperatively so that we could then move forward, take the lessons we've learned, and people learn lessons, and people heal and grow and mature themselves, so that then we can more focus on the Two of Cups and moving forward, aligned with our more hopeful, believing nature, inspired to be more just and fair and balanced. And then underneath that, we have the Scorpio card of the Death card, where we can shed, I'll use the example of a job again. People could have had something happen with a job that didn't work out, just like people can have things like that happen in a relationship. And people go get a new job, go get a new friend, get in a new relationship. And everybody kind of has their ideas about, how they conduct themselves, how they view themselves, how they view others, how they conduct themselves in workplaces and relationships. And some people have kind of healed from some of those situations in their past that didn't work out. And even though they could be sad that some of those things didn't work out the way they wanted, they're inspired. The Four of Wands is fire sign energy, which can be about being inspired. That I'm going to deal with the truth of it. I have to hold myself accountable. How did I maybe contribute to that not working out? How did some of the people I was in relationship with, how did they contribute to it not working out? If I don't want to repeat that old pattern. So say someone was kind of bossy or controlling, which can be shadowy Four Wands, in one job, and then things don't work out in that job for some reason, they go get another job, but they still kind of haven't dealt with the truth of how they could have contributed to that job not working out. And then, they decide, well, that didn't work out. I am going to harness more shadowy Scorpio energy, shadowy Libra energy that anyone can harness, that I don't want to see the truth, because the Three of Swords comes after the Two of Swords. You either listen to your intuition and deal with the truth, and you see what things need to be let go of. If I used to be bossy and controlling, and I used to think that was just and fair, if I don't want this to happen at the next job, I got to put an end to that idea. That is no longer my truth. If I was more immature, if I was more stubborn or prideful. I need to put an end, is what the death card can talk about, to that. And I need to kind of wrap my brain around this game of life and balance out my emotions, that if I want to, the death card can talk about transforming your life. If I don't want to repeat this old pattern and I want to transform my life, the only person I can change is me. I don't have control about other people, and I go get a new job, a new friend, a new relationship, and some of those people are going to have their issues, right? And I got to deal with them. Well, how am I going to deal with them? High vibe people know that the best way to deal with people is to not stay in denial of the truth. That could be like a shadowy tower card. Offer people peace and love. Be authentic. Be encouraging. But kind of don't get caught up in the drama. And if they want to, you know, it's kind of like people putting logs on a fire to make the fire blaze up. And like, I'm not going to play those games. Like, if you want to play that game, or if you want to get into gossip, or if you want to do this or you want to do that, no, I'm going to keep moving on, because that is kind of not the foundation, is what the Five of Pentacles and the Four of Wands can talk about. That's not the foundation I operate from. And there might be people that I can work with or know in my community that I don't invest that much time, energy, and effort into. And I kind of focus more of my time and energy on people who I think have learned some lessons about ways of being that are hurtful and unkind and unjust and unfair, and have seen the truth, and they put an end to their more shadowy ways of being to work together with people in a more just and fair way. And so the same thing can happen in relationships. Sometimes we have, some people could be shocked that some of the people in their life that they thought were more motivated and inspired by love could realize that they're kind of more motivated to maybe be in a relationship because we're sad and we're heartbroken. We should keep moving forward with this relationship. And if the other people do this work within themselves, which they didn't know they were doing that work within themselves to get more balance within themselves, and it could just be working through past pain and heartbreak, working through self-limiting beliefs, working through whatever it was that was manipulating them in the past, when they could have also been more out of balance, when they kind of are starting to move forward in life differently because they've dealt with some issues and they've kind of done this work within themselves to get more balanced. Well, sometimes the people that you could be in a relationship with or friends with, they're like, well, when did that happen? Like, you're different. And the fives can talk about change. You're not the same person you were when we got in this relationship. You seem to have done this work and you've kind of freed yourself. And the whole thing is, we view life a certain way and we live our life a certain way at all these different stages of our life, because that's how we view life, at that way of life, and based on our life experiences, and if we've healed, if we haven't healed, if we're still dragging around baggage, if we haven't learned to love ourselves, haven't gotten more balance within ourselves, haven't learned to love ourselves, and then sometimes when some people do that work, other people are like, well, you can go ahead. I don't want to be in a relationship with you anymore. So it can go both ways. Sometimes we can get in relationships and we all have lessons to learn. And probably when we, weren't aware of that. And, life is about learning these lessons and kind of becoming illuminated to the truth. That life is about learning these lessons. I'm going to come in contact with all these different people in the world that view life the way they view it. They've got their heartbreak, they've got their fears, they've got their insecurities, they've got their more worldly nature, their more hopeful, believing, loving nature. Which one are they going to align with? And sometimes when we initially get in those relationships, we maybe really don't, again, because I think we come in contact with all these people to help us get more clear about what our truth is and isn't, and what's my philosophy of life, and have I worked through my regrets of the past, or am I still making decisions more out of living more from my mind than my heart, or my worldly nature, or operating more from my ego? Am I willing to do this work to free myself from things that manipulate me? What about the people I'm in relationship with? Are they? And sometimes it can have been a relationship that could have seemed very just and fair, and it could have seemed in a lot of ways very loving and encouraging and supportive, but it's just that over time our people kind of motivated and inspired to detach, is what the death card can talk about, an old way of living life or viewing life, and having hope and faith and belief in themselves and in their dreams and in love. And sometimes when some people are ready to kind of detach from an old way of living life, I use the example all the time because I think it's one we can relate to. When we were 15 and 18 and 21 and 25, we viewed life a certain way, and it was just and fair kind of for us to live our life that way, because that is how we thought and felt and how we viewed life. But are we going to stay a 15-year-old forever, or an 18-year-old, or a 21 or a 25-year-old? You know, we kind of put an end to that old way of being. And even though we could be a little sad because there could have been things about living our life that way that we liked, but, well, maybe say 50% of the people are kind of motivated to keep growing themselves to their full potential. They kind of have that hopeful, believing spirit within themselves. I don't want to live my life like this all my life. It's just a stage of life that I'm at. But the whole thing is, when we become adults, then we pop out in the adult world and we can blend in with all the different people who are over age 18, and they're all living their life in all these different ways. It's like, no, just slip in there. Oh, I think I'll go live my life like that. I think I'll live my life like this. And some people never planned and never had a dream of kind of detaching from an old way, kind of like, this is how I always dreamed of life being, this is how I want to live it. I might not ever be kind of stepping out of my comfort zone, but that could make me feel unstable. And we all do and live our life in a way that kind of makes us feel like we can handle it. Like, just like we don't apply for a job that we don't have the skills for, right? We want to kind of stay in our comfort zone. And some people don't align with, they've let go in their free will of aligning with their more hopeful, believing nature, and they kind of maybe do make their life more about ego and image and, being in a relationship so they kind of look like they have these things that other people have. And they could be kind of sad that they're not more creative and inspired in their life. And they could know some other people who are, just to challenge themselves to not just stay in their comfort zone forever. So let's go see what this card is over here. The Ten of Swords. So there's some people that hide from the world. I do maybe have regrets about some issues of my past. I could have regrets that other people I've been in a relationship with, I didn't really work with them cooperatively or more authentically from love. And then some of those people moved on. And then there's quite shadowy people that kind of go Scorpio on people. It's like, if you're not willing to live your life the way I live my life, and if during the course of this friendship or relationship you grew and healed and matured yourself and worked through some of your pain and heartbreak, or your idea of what you think is just and fair has kind of maybe changed from what you thought it was. And, maybe before you're willing to put up with a little more shit. And now you might want to do a more balanced, equal give and take relationship. That's when some people are like, well, I'm going to backstab you now. Because I'm not doing life any differently. This is how I view the world, how I want to live my life, what I think is just and fair. And that can be quite shadowy people where they're egotistical and self centered. And if you won't indulge me and keep moving forward in this illusion, and if you don't keep staying heartbroken, and I might be heartbroken, or I might live more from my mind, and maybe when you got in it, you thought it seemed logical and practical because you could have felt left out in the cold, other relationships didn't work out. You then are supposed to live your life like that forever. And I want to live my life like that way forever. And other people are like, I don't stay the same. Over time, I do look at my bag of junk I'm dragging with me, and I don't want to keep dragging it around anymore. And so periodically, I do look at those issues that kind of manipulate me. Maybe after I've been carrying them around for like 5 years or 10. And I don't want those things to keep backstabbing me. So I work through it, and I work through the sadness and the pain and the heartbreak, and I get inspired to detach from it so I can move forward feeling more free of it, where I am just more open. Those things don't manipulate how I think and how I feel and how I act and how I react. Where before, those things could have really affected the decisions I made in my life. And I maybe didn't like some of the decisions, or just that it made me sad, or made me in lack mentality. And I think high vibe people offer truth and love to the people they're in relationships with to move forward with them. And some of the people in our life do that with us. They have no interest in wanting to backstab us, just like we have no interest in backstabbing them. We're all kind of focused on the bigger picture that, yeah, we kind of go through ebbs and flows. And sometimes, even in friendships or any type of relationship, you're kind of maybe in different stages of life and things that you might like to do. And, but, we can always keep staying in relationship, and sometimes we reconnect back up with people. And the high vibe people in our life are willing to work with us that way. But some people, it's kind of like in their ego, if you didn't, how dare you change? How dare you want me to change? How dare you want me to detach? And in shadow, the King of Cups and the Sun can be people who just like to wear a false mask. And that is also shadowy Scorpio. I don't want to be more authentically myself. Isn't it good enough if with you I wear a false mask like I'm motivated and inspired by love, and when we go out in the world, I act like I'm motivated and inspired by love? But it could be more about the ego and the image, is what the Five of Pentacles can talk about. Let's keep moving forward in this relationship because I don't want to get out of it. We should stay in it. It could have stability and security. It could look just and fair, look like I've moved on, look like I've healed, look like I'm more emotionally mature or stable and grounded, maybe than I really am. But something along the course of the relationship or the friendship or the workplace, other people kind of could have felt they could have been a more hopeful, believing person. And they thought the people that they got in a relationship with were a more hopeful, believing person. But then they found out that wasn't the other person's truth. And then it's kind of funny because the Ten of Swords is Gemini energy, which is about what is our truth. Gemini is about our dualistic nature. Am I more aligned with hope and faith and belief and love and I do think life is about healing and growing and maturing myself throughout my life and shedding layers of my more immature nature, or being more about myself, or being consumed by these things of the world that I make so important, or things I want to indulge in to make myself feel better. Do I have an interest? Am I motivated to do that? And some people are like, no, that's not my truth. My truth is I try to hide from people that I reject higher learning and education. I might have lack mentality, I might have past pain heartbreak, I might be egotistical, I might like to live more from my mind than my heart, and that is how I want to live my life. And for some people, you just realize you view life differently, and it can take time to learn that in a relationship. And with some of those people, there's again no interest to want to backstab people, but once people kind of find out that we kind of have different truths and we have different views of life and kind of what motivates and inspires us, and sometimes, both people can feel sad, and sometimes people stay in those jobs and friendships and relationships anyway because to end it means things will change and they'd have to go look for a new job, a new friend, a new relationship, and they're not willing to do that. And you might know some people that are at that stage of life where, nope, I don't care. I'm going to hide that I might. And both people, and it's a mismatched relationship. Both people kind of realize the truth that, oh, when we got in it, you know, things didn't work out wherever we're looking to have a new beginning. We both could have been kind of sad and heartbroken, but again, one person could still like, I am ready to move forward in this and keep working on it from a place of being authentic and inspired by love. And the other person was like, I never really was that kind of person. And in order for me to move forward like that, I would have to do this work kind of within myself to figure out why I don't. And some people are like, I don't want to do that work. That it takes work and effort. I have to self-reflect. I have to think about these things, and I would rather leave the relationship or just keep moving forward, ignoring it, and we'll just stay sad because I don't want to deal with it. And so some people could move forward in a relationship where everybody's heartbroken, there isn't love there, people aren't deaf to the truth, people aren't speaking the truth, and people keep moving forward in an unstable workplace or relationship, wearing their false mask of how wonderful their life is. And eventually it kind of gets to where people really just can't take it anymore, and it's an injustice, really. You know, God doesn't want people to live their life like that. Shadowy energy is about all these things that limit us and oppress us and confine us and restrict us and oppress us and imprison us. High vibe energy is being free to live your authentic life, but you have to be willing to work through the things that manipulate you and the past and all those things and your ego to free yourself to be, I'm going to live my authentic life and I'm going to speak my truth. Have I been a fallible human being who's made mistakes before and hurt people? Yes. Have other people been fallible human beings who have hurt me? Yes. Some of those people or anybody I meet who has some of those certain traits and characteristics I know not to get in relationships with people like that anymore. I've learned these lessons. And I did the work to figure out why I was drawn and attracted to them anyway. Was it my more codependent nature, my more immature nature, my not loving myself nature, more out of pain and heartbreak? Well, I don't want to get in relationships with people for those reasons anymore. And I'm going to do this work it starts within my foundation of self. I need to learn to love myself. I need to get balance within myself. And maybe not interested in trying to balance things out with some other people until people do this work within themselves. And then the Virgo energy of the Knight of Pentacles can talk about taking this time to think and work through your own regrets and sadness and self-limiting beliefs, to offer yourself love and compassion and forgiveness, offer love and compassion to other people, so those things don't sabotage you anymore and backstab you anymore. When we take action more out of fear and insecurity and pride and ego and lust and greed or whatever, there's going to be a lot of people in the world that would love to be in a relationship with you, being in that unstable energy. Perfect. Yep. Let's get in a relationship. This is great. Let's date. Let's get married. Work here. Let's do this. Stay in it forever. Stay in that energy forever. Because some of them plan to stay in that energy forever. You know, it's just like the same thing if you get in a relationship with somebody who's immature. Well, they might be a lot of fun. They might be spontaneous. They might be the life of the party. But they never work through their issues to get more balance within themselves and kind of grow up and mature themselves. It's like, you know what, I'm going to let someone else enjoy people like that being the life of the party if I think they have these shadowy traits about them. Can people be the life of a party and they're more balanced and just and fair and authentic and loving? Yeah. Those are the ones I'm looking for, not the ones that are trying to just cover up to kind of make themselves feel better, right? So some Scorpios have done this inner work. And when we initially can detach from a foundation, it can be a shock. And some people are going through that right now. Some people can't believe that some people are moving on without them. Some of the people that are moving on could be sad, but everybody's got their truth. This isn't aligned with my truth. The way I am, you probably want to get out of it because it doesn't align with your truth. We're on different pages. And then as people go through that, before they're ready to move forward from the Three of Swords down to the One Swords, they kind of got to get out of being in two minds about it and kind of in that conflicted energy. So that's where high vibe people do this work within themselves, that I'm not ready to go have a new beginning. Have I went and got new beginnings before when something like that happened? Yeah, and it probably just kind of happened again. You know, I need to work through it. And that is kind of what these cards not showing themselves can mean. Is there could be some people, you know, who just create an illusion. Look, I've moved on. Look, I've healed. Look. That's kind of the ego energy over here. And they're kind of creating an illusion. They are not being truthful. Things still manipulate them. Could be the same things that manipulated them in last jobs and friendships, but they're trying to move forward with new ones. And they could think, and people who kind of live their life like that, could think that some of the high vibe people are doing that also. And when you get out of one, say, relationship, there's always other shadowy people that are like, hey, I want to be the next person to indulge in a relationship with you. Oh, do you feel left out in the cold and you're sad? Yeah, I did feel left out in the cold and I'm sad. And I was sad about it. And I've been working through it. And that's what some people don't know, is that you have been doing this inner work within yourself to work through feeling kind of left out in the cold and sad and heartbroken that didn't work out. And you've done this work within yourself. The tens can talk about completing a cycle. To work through and complete the cycle, work through all the different thoughts and everything of seeing the truth of the situation. And you emotionally have freed yourself from the heartbreak to go have this new beginning. And when you do that work to free yourself and move forward in life, then that's like the second tower. But it's kind of more of a tower for the people in the world who didn't think you would do that work within yourself to free yourself from the pain and heartbreak. Because also, if you're not being truthful and honest and authentic and loving, some people will do hurtful, unkind things in a way, or end a relationship with you, or keep their distance from you because they want you to feel left out in the cold and sad and heartbroken. So you will put an end to your truth and come towards them and do the relationship the way they want you to do it, not being balanced. You let go of your truth and do the relationship the way I want, because I don't want to do the relationship the way you want. Because you want me to do this inner work, be more independent, be more authentic and warm and loving and inspired by love, and that's not my truth. And you did this inner work to see the truth of it. So while some of those people are still moving forward thinking they're manipulating you, just waiting for you to come and make them an offer to get back in a relationship or keep chasing them, what they don't realize is that you've done all this inner work to realize if people are going to try to manipulate me and they're not being authentic and they're doing these hurtful, unkind things, they're not who I thought they were to begin with. I saw the truth. I used to view them as this more stable, grounded, just, fair, balanced, loving person, but I have worked through all of it. That is not the truth of the foundation they operate from. And I'm no longer in illusion. I have seen the truth, and they keep showing me every day the truth of who they are. And same way with employers in a workplace, eventually are like, sorry, but I was trying to work with you and work cooperatively with you, but this isn't working out. And you're not going to be moving forward with us because we don't think you work together with us in a more just and fair way, right? And I would think, when we're willing to get out of our ego and admit, I had healing, growing, and maturing to do, as we're moving forward, we could have some regrets because we all had to make decisions in our life. I'm going to be this person's friend. I'm going to date this person. I'm maybe not going to invest as much time and energy in someone else. And then as we're moving forward, it's like, kind of maybe like, wait a minute. I think I have known some more loving, encouraging, authentic, balanced people, but I was kind of out of balance, so I kind of wasn't hanging out with them or pursuing relationships with them. Maybe those people are more on the same page as us. And high vibe people, I don't think are, they kind of get out of their ego about it. And they could communicate to other people who they chose maybe not to keep investing in, and those people move forward in their life. And with some of those people, it could work out. Some of those people would be like, I didn't understand. It's like, well, I was kind of out of balance and I had past issues I hadn't dealt with. And then some people might say, yeah, we should, we'll become friends again, or we'll start hanging out again to see if we can work through these things. And if we can work through these things, we don't want to just keep balancing out our emotions that maybe we had ended a relationship that we shouldn't have. And we want to put an end to that idea because we keep being heartbroken that we kind of keep getting in relationships with people who really aren't on the same page as us. And we could have rejected people who were more on the same page as us. Because again, I think we're drawn and attracted to certain people because of our own issues that we have to deal with. And we have to get through our philosophy of life and our ego and our lack mentality and our past pain and heartbreak. And sometimes we can keep getting in relationships with kind of people who kind of remind us of people that caused some of that pain and heartbreak to begin with. Until we work through all of that. And it's like, I don't want to keep getting in relationships with people who kind of maybe subconsciously remind, I'm no longer going to try to make other people like me or value me. I'm going to just be authentically myself. I'm going to treat people in a just and fair and authentic and loving way. If people don't want to move forward with me in that way, I wish you peace. I'm not going to try to change anyone anymore. But that could have been a pattern, an idea that people had. I don't want to be in a relationship with someone who kind of treats me like I treat people, because no, that's not my philosophy of life. No, I go to try to help these other people to change them. And someone who has a completely different philosophy of life. Why do I keep trying to change people who aren't kind of authentic and warm and loving to begin with? And why do I reject the people who are? What the hell? I need to stop doing that. And if different people in the world who know they do that is like, why do I do that? And part of it can be, I think we would have never thought of it this way. I didn't figure it out till I did tarot myself. That it is kind of like indulging ourselves in our ego. If we're in a relationship with someone where, oh, but look, yeah, no, I need to help them. Look, oh yeah, they're bossy, or they're immature, or they're selfish, or they're whatever they are, right? It's kind of us like, I'm the more balanced, whatever, loving person, right? But we're not in a relationship with someone who challenges us to grow and mature ourselves. It's like, oh no, these people need my help. I'm going to help them. But while we were spending our time doing that, we could have offered people love and encouragement, but then spent our time and moved forward with people who challenged us to, and these ones will too, but it's the more painful process of working through those issues. Why not work together with someone who works together with you in a more just and fair and authentic and loving way, right? But eventually I think we kind of get to that point like, yeah, I'm done trying to change people. I am willing to work and know and socialize with all sorts of people. Am I going to get in a more involved relationship with you? No. We're on different pages, and I've been around that block enough that if people seem to still have not healed from some of their issues and still haven't been enlightened to the truth that it's about love and being more open to love and, be a more loving, inspiring, hopeful, believing person in relationships, and kind of want to wear a false mask or want to indulge himself more in a relationship, more for the ego or the image. It's like, I've been there and I've done that and I don't want to do that. And we just see the truth that some of the people we would like to have move forward with us, that's not where they're at right now. And it can take years and decades to learn some lessons. If we were to look back at some of the lessons we had to learn, how long did it take, And we kind of, and our views of life. If somebody is more self-protective, more self-defensive, likes to kind of more indulge and make their life about things they indulge in or ego or image to make themselves feel better instead of love, that's their free will choice. They harness their Scorpio energy different. And if I want to be in deep, meaningful relationships, I need to be in relationships with people who want deep, meaningful relationships. So what's coming up for people who harness some high vibe Scorpio energy that they might not see coming? The Queen of Wands and the Ace of Swords. The queens can represent how we think and feel. The kings can represent and the masculine energies can represent how people are presenting themselves in the world and the action that they're taking. Why did these two cards come out? Because of the Ace of Cups and the King of Swords. You offered yourself that cup of love, and here we would go to the Six of Cups if we offered a cup of love, and again, the Five of Cups to the Six of Cups, we can get more reconciled and balanced within ourselves, and it can also talk about reconciling ourselves with the past, kind of coming to a place of balance about it. And then we can move on. I can accept that people are where they're at. And people have their own dreams and aspirations and whatever, we're not all going to click and we're not all on the same page at the same time. And you also offered truth and love and can maybe feel proud of yourself that you acted in a warm, authentic, just, fair, loving way. And that for some people, if that's not their truth, then how can my dream come into reality with them if that's not their truth? And I see the truth of it, and I let them harness these energies maybe in a more shadowy way, a little more aligned emotionally with their ego nature, and maybe living more from their mind than their heart. And that's what they love, and that's what they want to keep doing. And I want to be in relationships with people who are more authentic and warm and balanced and loving and inspired to be more just and fair and authentic and loving. And I think as you move forward in that energy, and all of it could have helped you get inspired to work through these issues within yourself. The King of Swords and the Three of Swords is Libra energy, represented by the scales of justice, to get more balance within yourself. And that all this experience could have helped you deal with some issues within yourself so that you could detach from them. And you did it all by offering truth and love to it. I'm not going to stay in denial of the truth. I'm not going to keep staying unstable. I'm not going to keep staying left out in the cold and sad. I wish myself and everyone peace and love, and I'm moving forward. And emotionally, when I think I am ready to do that, and some people have already moved on, the Five of Pentacles can be new friendships, relationships, jobs. I'm moving forward in life. That's what I'm investing my time, energy, and effort, is to looking to the future. And if there's people in my life that didn't want to move forward with me, okay. I see the truth of it. That's not what drives and motivates you. That's not what you want to invest your time, energy, and effort into, probably because that's not your truth. And maybe they'd be sad because we all like to live our life the way we want to live it. And if, whatever way it could be, that if people haven't worked through relationships of a past, well, then they should go work out that relationship. I don't want people moving forward with me feeling left out in the cold and sad. Other people are like, I don't care if you feel left out in the cold and sad, you're coming with. And that would be more shadowy people. So long as it works for me and it's good for my ego and my image, it's like, I don't want people to be in a relationship with me unless they're inspired to be in a relationship with me. And they treat me in a just and fair manner. And I think as people see you in that energy, there's going to be other people that don't want to keep repeating that old pattern or ways of living life or being in relationships and workplaces like that want to move forward with the people who are, in a world of duality. Some people are creating shadowy kind of relationships and environments, and other people are creating more high vibe ones. And if you're willing to see the truth, oh shit, these people I'm hanging out with or this job I'm at, these people, no, that ain't ever going to happen here. I believe that high vibe energy is creating a positive environment. Because kind of like the high vibe energy and the shadowy energy are battling, shadowy energy is kind of trying to trap people more using fear and insecurity and intimidation and all that stuff. And it's like, if people show you that's what they try to use, it's like, nope, that's not my truth. I'm going to stand up for my truth. And yeah, I'll go look for a different job or different friend or different relationship. But I'm not going to do it more from this shadowy energy. I can get to know people, move forward with people, but until I think it is more inspired by truth and love, it can just stay as a friendship, right? What's coming up for people who harness a more worldly, shadowy Scorpio energy that they might not see coming up? Okay, we got some cards poking up. The Knight of Pentacles and the Queen of Cups. Why? Because of the Eight of Swords and the Page of Wands. Well, when there's some people in the world who are kind of in a mental prison, either because they like to be kind of immature, they could have people in their life who are harness this energy in a more high vibe way, where they kind of have that more hopeful, believing spirit, but they could have fear of aligning with their more hopeful, believing spirit. And so, because of that, they kind of offer people more in a shadowy, worldly nature, more of these things of the world, like, but I look loving and I'm warm and I'm encouraging, but it's not really kind of more authentic. It's hiding that they live more from their mind than their heart. It's like kind of putting on a performance because I want you to stay here, or I want to be in a relationship, or, I have these issues that I try to hide from people. And this would make it look like I've had a new beginning, like I've moved on, like I've healed, or I've grown, or I've matured. But it's not really investing in love. And they're still out of balance because the chariot in the upright is Cancer energy, about kind of getting in the driver's seat of your own life and getting balance between your more worldly and shadowy energy and your more hopeful, believing, loving nature. But they keep not wanting to do love because they're afraid of kind of letting their more hopeful, believing inner child out to play in the world. And because of that, there's been people who have been off trying, harnessing this energy in a high vibe way, trying to offer them that loving and encouraging and supportive environment. But these other people, they never invest in kind of doing that work within themselves to ever get in the driver's seat of their own life. And eventually, some of the high vibe people in their life see this isn't moving forward. I thought we were going to move forward. I thought we were going to work together with this and come together like in joy and celebration to get justice and transform our life and move forward in this new beginning. But the other people keep calling judgment on it. Nope, I want to keep moving forward like this. Let's just keep doing this. And the other people are like, but you don't really work together with me, kind of more inspired by truth and love. And I kind of feel like I'm missing an opportunity in love. It might look good by worldly standards. It might have the status and the image. And, you could seem like a great person. And a lot of people could think you're a great person. But I don't feel like you really work together with me, having a deep, meaningful relationship, more authentic. I think you operate from your more emotionally defensive nature. And if I let my more hopeful, believing inner child out to play, I want other people to let their more hopeful, believing inner child out to play with me. Because otherwise, I'm like being authentic and the other person isn't. And I'm in a relationship with someone who's like wearing their costume or their mask or their cardboard cutout person, their egoic nature. And eventually some high vibe people in their life see this is not going to move forward. And the chariot also talks about moving forward victoriously. And the other people then decide to invest in working through their own fears and insecurities about why they stay. And some of the high vibe people in their life are going to detach and move on. And there could be some other people in their life that will keep staying in relationship with them. The pages can be that people are more codependent. They could be also kind of more immature, like to live more from their mind than their heart, or this person is offering me these things of the world. I have stability and security. And for some people, and everybody's at different places in their life, that could be a big driving factor in their life. I just think that if we're not in a relationship for the right reasons, and if we know that other people aren't in the relationship with us for the right reasons, which is love, it's either going to be very unstable. If some people don't align with love, they could move forward in some ideas that they have, and they could keep trying to present themselves as a more high vibe person, but the tower talks about the truth being revealed. So even for people who are maybe in a more mismatched or kind of codependent relationship, or more for ego or image or money, other people see the truth. And then maybe some other people don't really want, you know, everybody's got free will of who they want to hang out with. And it's like, I think I might hang out with the people who seem to be more mature, more authentic, more loving, instead of hanging out with people where it maybe can be kind of awkward because you kind of feel like it's not what they present it to be. And that can be a shock for some of the people that keep trying to live their life that way. And the thing is, you can put on as good a show as you want, but other people kind of listen to their intuition. It's like, I don't think this is the real deal. I think you guys are in this relationship for other reasons. And some people who used to buy into the illusion could move on. And then some of the people that thought, people would always buy into the illusion, again, they could get mad. Well, if you don't buy into the illusion of who I try to present myself as being, and that I'm this more stable, grounded, emotionally mature, loving family person than I really am, well, then I don't want anything to do with you either. Maybe I'll backstab and betray you. I maybe already backstabbed and betrayed other people who didn't buy into the illusion. They wanted to do truth. I don't want to do truth. I want to live in the illusion. I might be immature. I might be codependent. It's one thing to tell people I'm kind of codependent, I'm kind of fearful. People can have compassion for other people, but are they ever going to do the work within themselves to feel less codependent, less fearful? Are they more ego and materialistically driven? That would be harder to change than fear and some insecurity and codependency. And some people could be hiding that they feel like they backstabbed and betrayed themselves because when they had an opportunity in kind of supportive and encouraging environments, they, I don't know, took some maybe immature action because of these issues that affect them, and things didn't work out, and they could be sad. But if they're high vibe and get more high vibe, they'll do some work within themselves to deal with the truth. But sometimes if people are more a little prideful and egotistical, odds are they're not going to want to see the truth, and they're going to want to stay in denial and just blame everybody else. And they still might feel backstabbed and feel sad, but it's those other people's fault that it didn't work out. And they're never willing to see kind of their part in it, because they kind of keep indulging their more immature way of viewing life. And even when things keep not working out the way they want, if we keep indulging our more immature nature, keep viewing ourselves, not wanting to see the truth and see through the illusion, it's just like if you've ever been in your life too, and you've kind of like cognitive dissonance, where you view yourself a certain way and you foresee your future going a certain way, and then these things kind of keep happening in your life, and your life's over here in the ditch, and you're like, this is really confusing, because how did I end up over here? Because I view myself like this, and I thought my life was going to go like this, but these things, which probably is because of the things that we invest in, our time, energy, and effort, or, indulge in, or because it's kind of like a coping mechanism instead of dealing with our lack mentality or sadness or heartbreak. And then it's kind of like, oh my God, I can't keep doing this. And that can be the wake up call. I have to stop doing this. If I don't stop doing this, my life is not going in the direction I thought it was going. And if I stay at this job, and if I stay in this friendship, if I stay in this relationship, if I keep indulging my more immature nature, it's going to put an end to my dream. And I think I'm really going to drive my life off into the ditch. And that's when some people do this work within themselves. And sometimes we got to go drive off into the ditch. That's kind of the chariot in reverse. Sometimes that's what it takes because we don't want to see the truth about how we kind of indulge ourselves in an immature way. And those things will keep happening to try to get us back on path. Let go of this illusion that you're supposed to act a certain way or look a certain way, or, just work through your own issues so that you can go out the world and be authentically where you are at authentically. Again, whatever age you're at, you could have your issues. Not like you got to blab it to everyone, but if you get in a more involved relationship with people, just, I don't know why there would be shame with admitting it. I had some fears and I had some insecurities. I've had some fears and insecurities. I've had some pain and heartbreak I really didn't deal with very well. I had to learn to love myself. I was out of balance. I don't know why it has to be so hard. And then, would people still be willing to invest in you and be an encouraging, supportive person in your life? Yes, because you were telling the truth. You weren't trying to manipulate them or something. Does it mean that some people maybe won't get in a more involved relationship with you right now? Possibly, but at least they can be a supportive, encouraging person in your life to help you work through those issues. So that can be a loving and encouraging and supportive person that you can be to other people and other people can be to you. But I think some people, like all of us, when we weren't willing to get out of our more defensive nature or egoic nature, these things we like to indulge in, we probably had some people who kind of distanced themselves from us. And needless, we feel kind of left out in the cold and we feel sad. And I think some of the people that could have done that to some of you right now could feel that way. But some of them aren't willing to admit the truth. Some people, you have to humble yourself to admit I made mistakes and to learn lessons in life. And some people are like, nope, I'm not doing that. That would hurt my image or my reputation. That's the most important thing, that people view me a certain way. I can't be a fallible human being. And some of them are going to keep moving forward, living a life of illusion, not living their truth. And if they're not willing to illuminate the truth and be held accountable for their actions, the judgment card talks about there are consequences to our decisions. We can either reveal the truth, be authentic and loving, tell other people our truth, stand up for what we believe in, stand up for what's just and fair, or we keep indulging poor behavior in ourselves and others and we hope the outcome will be different. And it's like, no. Both people have to be planting good seeds or this won't work. Not long term, because it's not a stable foundation. So we'll leave it there. There you go, Scorpio. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.